Hello, welcome to Just Vintage Crochet. Let me introduce you all today to another book. Now, some of you are likely familiar with this book, but a lot of you are probably not. The Complete DMC Encyclopedia of Needlework. This is a republication of a book written by Therese de Delmont. Let's read the foreword really quick because it's very interesting, and this, I think, is important toward the history of crochet, knitting, needlework. Therese Maria Josepha von Delmont, the daughter of an aristocratic Viennese family, has perhaps contributed more to the development of fine needlework throughout the world than any other person. Her influence is as strong today as in 1884 when the Complete Encyclopedia of Needlework was published in France. The encyclopedia was immediately translated and published in 17 countries. In its first 62 years, it sold more than 1.5 million copies. That's something. Therese was born in 1846 and studied in Vienna at an embroidery school founded by the Empress Marie Therese. After completing her schooling, she moved to Donark, a village near Mulhouse, France, and founded her own embroidery school. At a time when aristocratic women confined their embroidery to their salons and boudoirs, Therese was a pioneer. Mulhouse was also home of the Dolphus, Mig, and C, a manufacturer known today as DMC, of fine needlework threads and materials. DMC opened its doors in 1746. Delmont had been acquired with the grandson of DMC's founder, Jean Dolphus. Forgive me, I don't speak French. And their business shared a close association for many years. The success of the embroidery school in Mulhouse enabled Therese to open shops bearing her name in Vienna, Paris, London, and Berlin. She traveled extensively, studied needlework in many countries, collected outstanding pieces of embroidery, and became internationally known. Her research and studies paid off in 1884 with the publication of the 800-page DMC, the Complete Encyclopedia of Needlework. Isn't that something? This book you hold in your hands today, a book that has never been equaled. What has made it popular for so long? First, it is comprehensive. If you're interested in pillow lace, macrame, knitting, crochet, tatting, gold embroidery, or mending, this book will tell you how to do it. Every needlework skill imaginable is described in detail. Second, the illustrations. Originally, steel engravings are outstanding. Their detail and clarity is amazing. In most cases, you can learn a skill just by following the illustrations. They make every step look easy. This is very true, by the way. Many professional needleworkers have learned their art from Therese de Delmont. For more than a century, her voice has spoken to new generations of needleworkers throughout the world. Thank you, Therese, for your gift. We wish we had known you. Why did that make me emotional? Anyway, okay, and this is who wrote that. Very lovely. Why did that make me emotional? I got over myself. Let's play with some stitches. And first things first, I have to point this out because in one of my videos where I called a single crochet a modern day slip stitch, somebody corrected me and said that if I'm going to tell people what stitches are back then, I need to get it right and study more. Okay, well, here's a single crochet to the person who was so kind. And guess what? Oh my goodness, it's a slip stitch. Okay, moving on from that. Her comment was absolutely nasty, so I feel like I can be a little bit nasty back. But yeah, that is a slip stitch. Here you go. That's a slip stitch. And it's called a single crochet, and it's described as such, a single crochet. The hook is passed on the right side of the work through the upper loop, either of a chain or a stitch of the preceding row. The thread is caught on the hook and drawn through both this loop and the loop on the hook produced by the previous stitch, a slip stitch. A double crochet is a modern day single crochet in the US. Okay, a rose stitch. What is a rose stitch? Rose stitch right here. Okay, so let's go ahead and follow some of these stitches and see if they are similar to stitches we use today outside of the single crochet, which is a slip stitch, and the double crochet, which in the UK is still called a double crochet, but here in the US we call it a single crochet. So let's start with playing with the rose stitch. So the rose stitch, it says this stitch consists of rows of double crochet, but translated into US terms, it is rows of single crochet, worked backward and forward. On each stitch, the hook is passed through both horizontal loops of the stitch in the preceding row. So let me pin this. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and work a row of single crochet really quick, and then we'll see what that looks like. Oops, I'll be right back. Okay, so it does say it's worked backward and forward, so I'll start with just a single crochet. And then it says to work through both of the vertical loops, horizontal loops. Oh, well then it's just a single crochet, right? Working through both rose stitch and ribbed stitch are generally used for making cardigans, mufflers, and shawls. Well, it's just a single crochet. Here's a picture of it. Doesn't quite look like a single crochet, but let's see. Yeah, I mean, it's going into the top of the stitch. It almost looks like a treble. Or not a treble, a half double. Maybe it's these vertical loops. Horizontal. Stop saying vertical, Corinna. Maybe it's these horizontal loops here. Well, it's not the easiest to get into. Like that? Maybe. But I'm not seeing 3 in a completed stitch. See the 3? 1, 2, 3. Go down, yarn over, pull through. And no, they're going into just the top of the stitch. It's just a single crochet. It's just a single crochet. Yeah. But there's not 3. Oops. Okay. This stitch consists of rows of single crochet worked backward and forward. On each stitch, the hook is passed through both horizontal loops of the stitch in the preceding row. All right, well then let's look at double crochet, which is single crochet. The hook is passed as for single crochet or slip stitch from the front to the back of the work through the upper loop of one loop of a strand. I mentioned in a video before that in the Victorian times they really loved doing the back loop only unless otherwise directed. So the upper loop of a stitch of the previous row, the thread is caught on the hook and drawn through this loop. The thread is passed over the hook and drawn through both loops. That's a single crochet, a US single crochet. And this is what it looks like. Yeah, that's a single crochet. Because what they're describing here is also a single crochet. They're not telling us to yarn over first, which I think would be the only way to get those 3 little bars right there. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So please don't tell me I'm getting stumped on just a stitch. Because the only way I can see to do that is to yarn over first, go into the stitch, and draw through everything. And look, 1, 2, 3. Let's see if it matches the picture exact. And yeah, it does. Okay. On this stitch, the hook, on each stitch, the hook is passed through. It doesn't say to yarn over both of the horizontal loops. Because it does say for a single crochet to just go through one. So they're telling you to go through both. So I guess the difference is this is a single crochet where you just go through one loop. And this is a rose stitch where you go through both, but you're not getting the three. But the three strands are only in the top row because it's just two everywhere else. So that is confusing, but I guess this is the rose stitch, which we now just call a single crochet. That's their single crochet. This is ours. Okay, let's move on. The Russian stitch. This stitch is worked like the preceding stitch. I'm sorry, like the preceding one, except that it is worked in one direction only so that the thread must be cut at the end of each row. So there's no point making that. You just cut at the end of each row. So the peak stitch, this stitch, like the Russian stitch, is worked on one side only, basically. The hook is passed under. I mean, I can fake that. Yeah, I can fake that. I guess I need to make a row of single crochet first. The hook is passed under one of the vertical threads of a stitch. Let me make a row. I just took them all out. I'll be right back. Hang on. Vertical, not horizontal, but it has to be on this side of the work, so I've got to fake it. So that means I'm going to come over here and come through one of the vertical threads. One of the vertical threads. It's not saying which one, so I'll just go with the first one. That's not going to be easy, so I'll go with the second one. Wait. Okay, no. I'm just going to go ahead and join here because that first stitch is so tight. It's not going to happen for me. So this is how, whenever I'm just doing samples or seeing how a stitch is going to work, this is how I fake it whenever it says cut at the end of every row. And I don't want to cut because I don't want to waste my yarn. So, okay. I'm going to chain one and go into the vertical bar. I'm going to go into this bar right here. The first one is tight. Okay, and the double crochet, complete the double crochet. Okay, go into this one. Those are tight. Maybe this forward one. The back bars are kind of tight. Oh my goodness. This is not if you're trying to be a speed crocheter. This stitch will not work. I guess maybe it's just work your stitches looser if you want it to work. And this is the peak stitch. Do we have a picture of that? I don't think we do. Is anything over here a peak stitch? No, we don't even have a picture of it to confirm if I'm doing it right or not. Let me get to the other end and then I'll come back to the beginning and we can see how it looks stacked on itself. Okay, the first row is it's real tough. So I'll go ahead and pull this out and pretend like I'm cutting it. And then bring a nice big loose loop back over to the beginning. Join. And it's not going to tell me which leg to pick, but here we go. I'm going to pick the one that stands out the most. These are very interesting. They look like little tornadoes. I'm curious to see what row 3 is going to look like. What an interesting stitch. I wish they had a picture of this one so I can confirm if I'm doing it right or not. And if I'm not, well, then we just came up with something here, didn't we? We just pioneered our own stitch, didn't we? It's not for those who need to speed crochet. I can tell you that much. Okay, I didn't work this stitch quite right. That's okay. We'll make it work. Sorry. And then one stitch on the end. I'll just pick this up right here. Okay. Now let's see what row 3 is going to look like. I'm noticing that this edge right here is starting to kind of go on the bias a little bit. So maybe in order to prevent that, I should join here on the very, very end, even if it's not really a stitch. Okay, let's pick up our stitch. What an interesting stitch. It's almost like it almost looks like a Tunisian crochet stitch. It's a very thick and firm stitch on top of that. Not just thick, but it's like meaty. But if you are trying this along with me, then you know exactly what I mean. And I'll show you what the back of the work looks like when I get down to the end of the row. Very interesting. You know what? It's getting easier now. This third row in, now that I have more I can hold on to, the stitch stands out a little more prominently. I can get my hook easily under it. That first row was a really tough one, which is why I've got my needle out, because I was having to lift each stitch up before I can even get my needle under it. Okay. And I think that'll do for now. I don't have to work on the very, very end. Look at the back of it. There you go. You can see what I mean by it's thick. It's real thick. That is so interesting. Man, this would make a great pot holder. Wow, there is some thickness and meatiness to this. It would make a great, great pot holder. Really and truly, that is so interesting. Have you ever seen anything like that in crochet? Okay, let's move on to the next stitch. All right, let's try the cross stitch, figure 488. Let's look at figure 488 and see what it's supposed to look like. Yay, we have a picture this time. They really needed a picture for the last one. Okay, 488, this is cross stitch right here. And it does look like cross stitch. So very aptly named. Okay. So this one here is described as, this is the name given to the stitch made in the same way as the last, but passing the hook through both loops of the preceding row. Oh wait, the last is the bias stitch. Okay, the bias stitch is worked entirely on the right side of the work. The hook is passed through the back loop of a stitch of the preceding row. The thread is caught with the hook without being passed over it, and the loop is drawn through the stitch. I'm sorry, the loop is drawn through. The stitch is then completed like double crochet. Okay. So let's see if I'm understanding this one right. Worked entirely on the right side, so just working one side, so you'd have to cut at the end of every row again. And the hook is passed through the back loop of a stitch. Then it says, The thread is caught with the hook without being passed over it. So just pull it through like this. And then the stitch is completed like a single crochet. You know what? Shut my mouth. It is a little bit slanted, isn't it? All right. Do a few more stitches here. Let's see what it would look like with a row 2. Okay, come right into the back loop. And let's go. I feel like this is just a yarn under single crochet. Back loop only, yarn under single crochet. Go through both loops just to secure it. It is slanted, so I will give it that much. It is slanting that way. Let's do this one more time, just to get a really good look at it. So it is a yarn under single crochet. Not so bad. I can see why it definitely needs to be cut at the end of every row, because you're not going to get this effect if you work backward and forward. And then we'll just go into both loops there. Yeah, it is a bias stitch. It's slanting forward. Okay, so now the cross stitch, now that we know what the bias stitch looks like, the cross stitch, it says, is made the same way as the last, which is the bias stitch, but passing the hook through both loops of the preceding row. Well, that's just a regular single crochet, or am I crazy? Oh, I guess what they mean is, okay, so I already worked this way. I guess what they mean then is that I need to, because the first row you have to cut at the end of every row. So working through both loops instead of one, this should hopefully create that cross stitch effect, because that's a really cool looking stitch and I want it to work out. For sure, for sure. All right. So going through both loops just on one side of the work. Cutting at the end of every row. I guess it is sort of creating that cross effect. Let's see what row 3 winds up looking like. Do a couple more. Okay, let's see what row 3 looks like. All right, last one. And yes, it does absolutely have that little cross stitch effect. Very cool. Let's look at the picture of that one again. Right there. I'd say that looks about right. Yeah. Okay, next stitch. Next one is going to be the Russian cross stitch. And this one here says, to make this stitch, which produces slanting lines, the hook is passed between the vertical threads and under the horizontal threads of the previous stitch. Now, do I need to stay working on one side? Probably. So here, it would be inserting your hook between the vertical threads, but under the horizontal threads. So, should we try it? Let's try it. I'm already, oh no, wait. This is the front of my work, right? Yeah. No, okay. So between the vertical threads, but under the horizontal threads. Basically, it kind of sounds like that, there we go. Yeah, like a little bit like that crochet knit stitch. Some people call it like a sock stitch. Well, let's see if I can make it work. Now that's just, well, that's just regular crochet. So here. And here. I don't know if I'm getting this one right or not. I don't know. I saw a picture of it. I'll show you. It doesn't quite look right. Maybe the back of it? No, not at all. Maybe, you know what? Maybe I am getting it right. Hang on. Might be judging myself a little too harshly here. Let me get a couple of rows in on this, and then I'll show you the picture. Come back to the beginning. And where I'm putting my hook is right here at the front of the stitch, in between these V's right here, right through the back, like that. Okay, let me get a couple of rows in. I didn't get this right. I feel like I was starting to get it right down here, but now it does look like that crocheted knit stitch. Ugh. Let me try this again. Not sure what I'm doing wrong, but every time I try this stitch, it just turns into what looks like the crochet knit stitch. So I'm gonna go ahead and move on to the next stitch and see if I have better luck figuring that one out. Never did show you. This is the Russian cross stitch here. So I was just not getting it right. I'm not sure what I was doing wrong, but I was not getting it right. It's okay. Can't get them all. Certainly not. Let's look at the blanket stitch, and we do have a picture number 490. 490 right here, the blanket stitch. The way it reads, it almost reads like a double crochet, but it doesn't look like one. So let's see if I can figure this out. Blankets can be made with rather less close stitches. It says close or close. Close or close, probably close, less close stitches than those described above. To give the work greater softness and flexibility, the thread is passed over the hook, so yarn over. The latter is passed under both loops of the stitch, and the thread is caught and brought back under the two loops and the over. So you've got to pull it, okay, so you have to pull it through all three loops. Another yarn over is made and drawn through the two loops on the hook. The stitch is worked backward and forward. Okay. This one sounds very interesting, so let's go ahead and give this one a try. So we yarn over, we go through. Yarn over and pull through everything. And no. Could have sworn that's what it said. No, I didn't do that right. Okay, yarn over, pull through, and the thread is yarned over. The ladder is passed under both loops of the stitch, and the thread is caught and brought back under the 2 loops and the over. Under the 2 loops and the over, the yarn over, well, I only have 1 loop. Pass under both loops of the stitch, and the thread is caught and brought back under the 2 loops and the over. I split my yarn under the 2 loops and the yarn over. Okay, and then you yarn over and pull through those. Okay, so then yarn over, go under 2 loops and the yarn over. Then yarn over and pull through again. I feel like I've done this stitch before, following a tutorial several years ago. Yeah. Nope. Nope. Did that one wrong. Yarn over, under 2 loops, and this at the same time. There we go. And then this. Okay. All right, well, it says we can work this one backward and forward, so let's give that a try and see how it looks. I kind of have to push the thread in with my thumb. As I want to pull through it, it wants to instantly just go to the outside of the loop. So I have to like hold this part here. I have to push this loop in with my thumb in order to get it under the yarn over. That's what I am finding. So yarn over, go in, and it just doesn't want to go unless I push this in all the way over like this, then it will go under that loop. I'll show you what it looks like when I don't. Okay, well, it worked that time. It was splitting a little bit. Let's see if I can master this without pushing it in. Nope, it's just wanting to split. Okay, there we go. Oh, okay. Now I'm getting faster with it. I like stitches I can work fast. This is such an interesting stitch. I'm sure that it has a modern name because I feel like I have followed this stitch before in a tutorial. But I just can't remember. It would have been years ago. All right, well, that's what the blanket stitch looks like. There you go. All right, let's try the knotted stitch. It also has an image. It says this one is worked exactly like the preceding one, so the blanket stitch, only it's worked in one direction though. So let me work a couple rows. Let me get the first row and then we'll see what the second row looks like. Okay, so this one here has to be cut at the end of every row and then you start at the beginning. So let's go ahead and try that. Chain one. I might as well trap it. Nope, yarn over first. I almost tried to do a double crochet. I keep trying to make a double crochet. Keep having to catch myself. And I think I'm going to catch this loop right here because it's bugging. All right, well, over and over again, that's what that stitch would look like. Okay, so here is that blanket stitch. They're calling it the knotted stitch, but just worked on one side. Here's what the back side looks like, and it's actually quite nice. It's one of those, like, you could really get away with having it be reversible with so much unique texture on both sides. I'm just sitting here touching on it and not really letting you look at it. Very beautiful texture on both sides. This one here, it's like that kind of texture you want to rub your hands on. It's very lumpy and bumpy. It's like sensory satisfying. I just love the way this one feels. If this was a blanket on me, yeah, I'd probably rub my hand on it. Probably have a dirty spot from where I always rub. Okay, well, there's a lot more stitches in this book. So let's make some more stitches in another video. I can get this one edited and out. And check out the other stitches. Plus, we've got a couple of patterns out of this book I'd really like to play with. So I will see you guys in the next video. Don't forget to check out this book. I found mine on Amazon, The Complete DMC Encyclopedia of Needlework. Thank you so much for hanging out with me while we played with these stitches. I look forward to playing with some more stitches and a few patterns in this book I'm really interested in. And as much as I am de-influencing myself and the people around me, I think a book like this is a worthy investment. Just give you a quick thumb through. If you are interested in embroidery and all kinds of other stuff, this really is a great teaching book. So we've got some linen embroidery on white materials, mending, so if you want to learn how to mend, machine embroidery. They also have some sewing, some machine sewing and plain sewing by hand. Really interesting stuff. Of course, we have the crochet and tatting, macrame. Let's go through here. Filet lace, big chapter on filet lace. Open work on linen, embroidered laces. All kinds of stuff, needlework trimmings, pillow laces. Let's see here, what is that? Needle-made laces, okay. So I think it is a worthy investment if you're real crafty and you want to hone in on some old skills you haven't tapped into for a while, or you want to try some new ones. Something like this is, I think, worth picking up. As much as, again, I say I am trying to de-influence everyone in my life, including myself. Let me tell you how much I paid for that book. Just a minute. On Amazon right now, it's selling for between $15 and $22. Not that big of a deal. So I would say it's a worthy investment. It's a small investment, and as far as today's economy goes, because the dollar doesn't go as far as it used to, but it would definitely be worth having, I think. Okay, I'm gonna see you guys in the next video very soon. I love you lots. Bye.